This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa, Internet world. How we doing today on a Monday? It's the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com. Hope you and yours are doing well. We're not live in the Derek Daniels State Farm Studios, but we are back and better than ever after a couple of days off. My man Theo Fernandez took care of everything while I was gone. Make sure you follow Theo at Theo Fernandez _ on the Twitter machine. We are going to be talking about Alabama basketball's big win over LSU, SEC tournament standings, and a whole lot more over the weekend. We'll get a little Alabama baseball report as the Crimson Tide took care of Rhode Island. We'll dip into softball just a little bit as Alabama softball continued to keep their early season run of play going by beating Florida State and staying undefeated on the season. So we're going to have a great episode right here on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com, on the Bama Central YouTube channel, on the Bama Central Facebook page. You guys can leave us a comment on any of those platforms. You can leave us a voicemail at 205-462-7340, extension 800 if you want to be a part of the program. We'd love to take your voicemails. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Program is presented by Derek Daniel State Farm Insurance. You can call him at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. Of course, we're presented by Purple Turtle Roofing as well, specializing in residential roofing, commercial roofing, really anything in the roofing world, full-on roof replacements, insurance claim support, and more. Check them out online today at roofturtle.com. With all that, we're ready to get into today's episode. I can't wait to get it going with you guys. Theo, thank you so much for Thursday and Friday. I know Thursday, getting started, not getting the sound quite there, and then it's stressful. It's stressful when everything's flying. You're like, I don't know why it's not working. I just want to applaud you and compliment you. You battled through the just the first little bit of technical, and you gave them two really good episodes. So I want you to listen on Thursday and Friday. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can hear Theo and Hunter Decipher talking about the Alabama and Arkansas game from Thursday, and then you can hear Theo and Henry Sklar talking about Alabama's game on Saturday against LSU and the NFL Combine. So two big old episodes right there, courtesy of Theo Fernandez. Theo, thank you so much, and good morning. How are you?
Thank you, Joe. I feel a little like Brock Osweiler right now, right? Like I came in, I filled in the starting role, nailed it, and now I'm just back here on the sidelines, for the rest of the. So I feel like, oh man, to go back to reality here now. It was a lot of fun leading the program for those 2 days. I hope everyone enjoyed those episodes. Great having Henry back on. I know it's been a while since he's appeared on the program, but he had a good time talking Alabama football. So yeah, it was a great 2 days and good weekend too.
Very good, very good. You were busy this weekend, working at WVUA, doing anchoring for the TV news station. You were watching and covering Alabama baseball against Rhode Island. You were watching and covering Alabama basketball against LSU. So really, just what do you want to start with? Obviously, Saturday, I was full on tourist mode in New York, so I really only paid attention to. I have Hunter Decipher. I have all our Bama Central teammates on alert, and Hunter was tweeting the basketball game as he always does. So I was following Hunter's tweets, but really I was unplugged. I saw Broadway on Saturday night, so I was watching Great Gatsby instead of Alabama and LSU. But I basically am following his tweets, and the game goes about like you thought it might. It was very South Carolina game-esque, where Alabama basketball was up but not dominating. Took them a while. I'm looking through the box score. I'm watching some of the highlights. Took them a while to kind of get into control of the game. They only went into halftime with a couple of points lead. But then they got into a double-digit lead right there, about 14 minutes left in the game. They held that double-digit lead almost all the way throughout, about 30, 40 seconds left, where LSU started cutting it down to single digits, but still a 7-point win. Alabama opened it up to the double digits, kind of held it, and then kind of just snoozed their way to the finish. What did you take away from Alabama LSU?
Joe, this team had a 5.5-minute stretch in the late second half without a field goal. Alabama. Any good basketball team is making Alabama at least really, really sweat. LSU is an atrocious basketball team. My thought watching LSU was, wow, these guys are worse than South Carolina. That McMahon he's not a good coach, man. So just watching the Tigers, like Alabama did not play a good game. Alabama played down to LSU's level. And we talked about it before South Carolina, and me and Hunter talked about it, or me and Henry talked about it heading into the LSU game. Break these guys, make them play your game of basketball. We played LSU's game of basketball. Like Alabama it was not a dominant performance by any stretch of the imagination. And it's interesting when you look, like LSU has taken a lot of teams down to the wire. 3-point loss to Texas A&M, 4-point loss to Arkansas, within 10 points to Kentucky and Tennessee. It went down to the wire with Texas. This game was not down to the wire because there was no point where I watched this game and thought, oh, Alabama could actually lose this. But it was just an ugly performance all around. It was the probably least enjoyable basketball game of the year to watch out for the Alabama fans who tuned into that. And yeah, just not all that much fun and just underwhelming second half offense. But at this point in the season, a win's a win, right? You go on the road, you get the job done.
A win is a win is a win is a win. What's that, 5 in a row now for the Crimson Tide? Or is
That's 6.
Now? 6. See, yeah. I told you I wasn't really paying attention as much. Now, I didn't talk about it because I was out on Thursday, but Wednesday night's game against Arkansas was incredible. And y'all did have a real good episode. I left a voicemail and it never emailed through from the hotel Wi-Fi for your Friday show. It's just incredible to go back and forth. And so, like, you're kind of, I don't want to say expecting, but you were expecting Alabama to have some emotional letdown or it's difficult to maintain that edge all the way through both halves and overtime and then go play an inferior opponent and really take care of business. But it's the same issue that Nate Oates has been talking about for 6 weeks now, maybe even more. But basically, his big challenge is getting the team to not play to the other team and not play to the situation. Oh, we're up 10, we can relax. But to instead play to the standard of every possession matters. We want to get a defensive stop on every possession. I mean, obviously that's an impossible standard, but you want to play really strong defense on every possession, go down and get a really quality shot on offense. You see Alabama open up a 16-point lead there in the second half. They're up 16 with 8 minutes to go. You shouldn't be, I don't want to say sweating because Alabama wasn't sweating during the last 5 minutes of this LSU game, but you shouldn't be taking your foot off of the gas. You should be able to maintain your lead, maintain your margin of victory, and really hammer, like, let's get Jacob Martin into the game. Let's get some of these guys that don't play into the game. And we've been talking about how valuable Aiden Sherrill has been post Charles Bediako. Well, he went out and played a huge amount of minutes against Arkansas. Let's keep this 16-point lead and pull him out of the game so that he can take a little bit of load off of him. Obviously, another good game for Aiden Sherrill, double-digit scoring and points, double-double. But he did foul out, 5 fouls. So that's one area that really you gotta watch for. If he stays out of foul trouble, then I think that he is really, really an effective player, and he is really coming into his own. Theo, since the Bediako ruling, we've had 4 games, and in those 4 games, Aiden Sherrill is averaging 16 points, 8.8 rebounds, almost 2 blocks, 1.5, almost 1.5 assists, 1.3 in the game, and really playing 28 minutes per game. This game against LSU was really the first game where he found some foul trouble of the 4, but playing at a really, really high level for Alabama. So I just think you playing down to, as you said, playing down to the competition, not finishing very well. These little things continue to play Alabama.
Yeah, Sherrill's been phenomenal. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Like, he is playing. He showed those flashes of being able to hit another level in the non-conference, right? He had a phenomenal game against Kennesaw State, and there was talk like, oh, what is Alabama's ceiling with him playing at this level? Can he reach it? And then, like, adding Bediako, right, and that whole saga, I think, covered up the natural development that he went through, right? You know, it was cool because it allowed us to not really focus on Sherelle as much, and now he's reached the point naturally through his development. And who knows, maybe playing with Chuck helped him learn some stuff, helped him develop more. But no, he's the player that I think people thought like he could be. Like, oh, look at this 4-star who's coming in. Excuse me. I think he's reached the level that people thought he could have as a recruit. And man, like he's a great traditional center inside for this team. It is phenomenal to watch, and he has absolutely been better about not getting into foul trouble. I wonder if that'll hold up when we hit these really big matchups, you know, and starting in 2 weeks when we're, you know, going to Nashville and then you're going to the NCAA tournament. Because it's hard to see Alabama winning a game against a team with another great post player if Sherelle's not there on the court when it matters. Like, it is, LSU didn't have the guys to make Alabama pay, right? They didn't have the guys to make, you know, Sherelle feel the effects of fouling out. Other teams do. And Sherelle has to play really, really straight up defense and really be intentional about when am I going to contest this shot? When am I going to risk picking up a foul? Like, it is going to be difficult. And I would argue that there's no one else on the team who has the amount of pressure that Aiden Sherelle has. You've seen Aiden Holloway and LeBaron Philon both come out and have bad games, right? And the other one of them is able to pick up the slack.
Exactly.
Amari Allen can go out and not be his best because you have other players, because you have Houston Millette who can go in and grab tough rebounds, because you have London Jemison who can go on a little run scoring-wise. Nobody on this team, and I confidently say this through watching the team for 4 months, nobody can possibly do what Aiden Sherelle does. So you better be available on the court when it matters.
I mean, you're exactly right. The guards, they can pick each other. I mean, you nailed it. There's nobody to pick up Aiden Sherelle. I mean, Noah Williamson is a complete miss in the transfer portal. And so that's really why you had Charles Bediako kind of come back in, because of how thin you were in the front court. If you don't have Sherelle, like, I like the double-digit scoring, 12 points. I see he made a couple of threes. I watched some of the highlights. He made 2 out of 3 threes. I love the 10 rebounds for him, but you just got to be available in 20 minutes. Good. You clocked in 20 minutes. You played basically half. You did. You played half the game. I think you want to get him around 23, 4, 5 minutes, but you need him on the court. And if you don't have him on the court, you may as well. You get him into a couple of early fouls, you're going to put Alabama up a creek without a paddle in any of these matchups going forward. Now, and as you were kind of alluding to, you got, 4 games left, and really only 2 of them, maybe 1, is extremely challenging. And so he's going to have to continue in his development, Aiden Sherelle, continue in his development through these last 4 games. And if he can, I mean, you stay on the floor, you give him a little bit of rebounding, a little bit of rim protection, and you really anchor this team, and you allow the guards to do what they do. I think that he is the key to the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. There's no tournament run. There's no big successful season without Aiden Sherelle playing at this level.
So Alabama was 10 of 30 from behind the arc. Okay, that's a little bit underwhelming as far as makes and even 3-point shots.
Yeah, Aiden Holloway shoots 1 of 6 from beyond the arc. You talk about a guy who's really just shown how versatile of a player he is, how much growth he's gone through. Shoots 1 of 6, has a pretty bad night at what he's supposed to be best at, and still had 17 points. And LeBaron Philon, like he was clearly not himself. Like he was it's honestly, it's a little head scratching that he even played, right? With the amount of times we've seen guys not play last minute. And you look at how small the matchup is. It was surprising to me that Philon was even ruled as, on the court with what he looked like out there. But Holloway ended up being a very positive player on this team, despite the bad shooting night. And that has been great to see. Not the bad shooting nights, because he's had a couple of those throughout the season, but it's great to see that when he does have a bad shooting night, he's still able to impact this team very positively.
So absolutely. So Alabama gets it done down in Baton Rouge. They're up to 6 in a row, and they're up to second place in the SEC standings. Last thing that I've got from this game, Theo, is 30 of 37 from the free throw line, 81% as a team free throw. So you made up for I don't want to say bad 3-point shooting, because 33% is fine. It's fine. It's good. It's almost even good. You basically look at Holloway, London Jemison, and Latrell Wrightsell. You're 3 of 9. You're 3 of 14 from beyond the arc with those 3 players. But as a team, 30 and 37 from the free throw line. LeBaron didn't miss one. Aiden Holloway didn't miss one. Amari Allen didn't miss one. Latrell was 9 of 10, getting to the free throw line 10 times. He said, if I'm going to shoot 1 of 5 from the three-point line, I'm going to get to the free throw line and get myself some easy buckets. So 9 of 10 for Latrell Wrightsell in an area that has not always been Alabama's strongest suit this season.
Yeah, Jemison went to the line with about 90 seconds left. Alabama up 6. Missed the first, made the second. And, you're sweating, especially with London Jemison, right? He's had multiple times where he's missed both free throws in the second half. You're still going to sweat every time these guys go to the line. But they are showing an improvement there. One last note on this game. It ironically kind of reminded me of the Bama LSU football game from this year, where you leave everyone walked out of Bryant-Denny Stadium not feeling great about the performance. This isn't a great LSU team. We didn't play phenomenal. It was a pretty close game, but you also never necessarily felt like, oh man, LSU's about to steal this game from us.
Right.
That's exactly how I describe this basketball game, to draw that parallel.
I think it's a really strong parallel. Yeah, I think that is a strong parallel. Didn't play your best, but stayed in front of them and just kind of rode the madness of the game all the way to zeros and walked out of there with a win.
Yeah.
So Theo, let's transition a little bit, because you do have just 4 games left. And Alabama taking on Mississippi State, I believe on Wednesday. Yeah, I believe on Wednesday. You got Tennessee on Saturday, Georgia the following week, and Auburn to finish the season on March the 7th. And so, really, really big games for Alabama to try to maintain their position in the league standings. Right now in the league standings, they're sitting second in the SEC. Your top 4 seeds are, of course, Florida. Let me scroll down. Florida, Alabama, and some SEC right there. Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, and Tennessee are your top 4 standings. 3 teams tied for second. Alabama tied with Arkansas and Tennessee, all at 10 and 4 in the conference. I believe that's a 3-way tie situation. That is why Alabama is sitting there second. Obviously, you're going to play Tennessee another time, but you beat Arkansas, and so there's some sort of a 3-way tiebreaker situation going there that has Alabama currently in second place. Obviously, the next rung, Texas A&M standing alone at 9 and 5, and then you have a big group at 8 and 6. Texas, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, all at 8 and 6, and then you have the back end of the conference. So you've got the SEC season basically wrapping up. I don't see Florida losing 3 of their final games, so they're probably going to cruise to an SEC regular season championship. They've got Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. So a couple of tough games to Arkansas and maybe Kentucky if they can get it figured out. I know Mark Pope is having a pretty tough weekend after what he said at what happened at Auburn and kind of what he got caught saying off the air, off the mic about getting screwed. So they got two semi tough games, but I have a really hard time seeing them lose 3 games. With that, you've basically got your SEC tournament bracket starting to come together. And I sent you a couple brackets. I believe we have the most accurate one here. Was the latest one I sent you with Alabama as the 2 seed playing on Friday. So look, tournament. Regular season championship out the window. Next best thing is winning the tournament, and to do that, you try to get a top 4 seed. You're sitting there still in that top 4 seed group, but you have to play well over these last 4 games. But let's say that Alabama does play well and this bracket does play out as the 2nd seed. How do you feel? How do you feel about the draw? I'm gonna talk about the draw, and then I'm gonna ask about which teams you don't want to face in Nashville. Alabama with the number 2 draw would play the winner of Oklahoma, Georgia playing Texas. So Texas plays on the Thursday. You've got Oklahoma, Georgia playing on the Wednesday. If Oklahoma probably Georgia beats Oklahoma, they play Texas. That's going to be an interesting game, Texas, Georgia, and then you play the winner of that game on Friday. That's a pretty good matchup, in my opinion. Winner of Texas, Georgia, or Texas, Oklahoma is a pretty good matchup for Alabama, I believe. You get a rematch with Texas, who beat you at home in a game you probably shouldn't have lost to, or you get a rematch with Oklahoma in a game you went to Norman and had an ugly win, had a much closer win than you should have, but a matchup that probably favors you against 2 former players. Georgia, we'll get to see that Georgia matchup here in about a week, so we can kind of see what that matchup would look like. But I think initially that is a very favorable Friday matchup. You win the matchup, and you're likely playing Arkansas again. How much do you think the SEC would love to have Alabama, Arkansas on semifinal Saturday, on the nightcap of semifinal Saturday? What do you think about just playing Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia winner, and then potentially playing Arkansas on Saturday?
Yeah, that's the draw. I mean, there are 2 teams here that you want to avoid, and that's Tennessee and Florida. This is the dream scenario right now. These results holding. It's like this 3-way tie between Alabama, Arkansas, and Tennessee. First of all, it won't hold, right, because Alabama and Tennessee play each other. So, we can't think in terms of that. So I was looking, and it's funny, I was looking at the magic numbers. Alabama's magic number for a top 3 seed is still 4. Like, you can only clinch it by winning 4. But you have an advantage with a magic number of 3 for a top 4 seed, whereas Arkansas and Tennessee need to win 4 to control the destiny. So you got to go 3-1, right? You got to get the top 4 seed. That's a given. That's a non-negotiable. I think the goal should be a top 3 seed, right? You want to avoid Florida. You would like to avoid Tennessee as well. I'd rather play Arkansas than Tennessee, but it's a much smaller gap there. You're okay with playing Tennessee again. You shouldn't fear a matchup with Tennessee. Florida, you get them in the semifinal. It's like, well, I mean, that's hard. Looking at the draw, I would love to play Texas again. I think that is the matchup that Alabama fans should be rooting for. Getting the chance to show the committee, hey, look, we are a much better team. We look at this Texas team that beat us, and now we go out and we beat them by double digits. You should not have lost that Texas game. You dug your own grave. You missed 6 free throws in the final 5 minutes. Jemison goes 0 for 2. Phylon missed one. I forget who else missed one in that game. But it was atrocious. You did it to yourself. You lost to an inferior opponent. Texas is a fringe NCAA tournament team. They're not all that good. To the point where, there's who knows? Like, they could just as easily lose to Oklahoma or Georgia. Like, you got to remember that whatever team is penciled in as the higher seed, playing the team who just won a playing game and is on a hot streak, you could very well lose that game. It's fun. What's always been funny to me about the SEC tournament is that sometimes it just feels like sometimes it feels like playing in the first round, the play-in game, is an advantage. at least for winning your second game. I don't think it applies when we get to the semifinals and when we're looking at the really good teams. But when you've got kind of these mid-tier SEC teams, now you're playing a team that's not all that much worse to them and that is feeling themselves now after a big win the day before, that's a disadvantage. Looking at this bracket is fascinating, man. We got Kentucky and Auburn playing day one. Auburn could very well line up with playing Alabama in the semifinals if they were to get hot. You don't really want that. Oklahoma's dropped below South Carolina in the standings as South Carolina went in and beat Mississippi State. Yeah, it's a really weird bracket. But I would say in general, just clinching a top 3 seed, if you do that, you're happy.
Right, because you want to avoid, obviously, Florida is the biggest one.
Florida
but
is.
You want to avoid, like, if you could draw it up, like, I heard you say it just now that you'd rather play Arkansas over Tennessee. I think are you saying that just because of the depth of Arkansas, the lack thereof, the depth of Arkansas? Because I think you saw last Wednesday, you're not stopping Darius Hacob. That's a nuclear bomb walking on the court, and so I don't know. Would you rather play Arkansas or Tennessee for real? Like, because I think. I know Rick Barnes has had your number for quite some time. I believe it's 5 in a row that you've lost to Tennessee. But I don't know. Stylistically, I think if you can get Tennessee running, if you can get them out of their game in Nashville, and of course, we're going to get another matchup right there in Knoxville on Saturday. So it's going to be a huge, huge week for Alabama. But you're serious? You'd rather play Arkansas over Tennessee?
Okay, well, to be fair, I have to say I was first a little biased. My biggest reason in saying that I wanted Arkansas is because I just want to watch that basketball game.
That's fine.
That's first and foremost. But, I mean, I don't know. Stylistically, it's like Arkansas is a really hard team to see going on a deep run, right? With the lack of depth. So I feel like you would like to play them after they've just played a game, right? I think the semifinals are where Arkansas bows out in this SEC tournament. Looking at the schedules, it's interesting because Arkansas goes on the road to play Florida. That should be a loss, right? Tennessee, you have the game next Saturday, Tennessee-Bama, and then Tennessee closes the year against Vanderbilt. You would think Tennessee would win that game. Vanderbilt's really, I'm surprised. Vanderbilt's still ranked. They probably will fall out with their loss to Missouri this week. It's easy to see either of these teams losing a game, right? You think Arkansas is probably going to lose one, and you know that either Bama or Tennessee is going to lose one. And what makes that interesting is Alabama can afford to lose to Tennessee, and then you're still the 3 seed, assuming Arkansas loses as well, right? So it's a bit of a weird situation down the stretch where you have these top teams, but you're all expecting them to lose. So I think that I would rather play Arkansas.
I think you make a really good case with the depth aspect and playing them on that semifinal Saturday, because Arkansas on this path right now, obviously the bracket will change, but on this path, Arkansas's quarterfinal Friday matchup would be against the winner of South Carolina, Auburn, and Missouri. South Carolina, Auburn playing on Wednesday, and then they'll play the winner on Missouri, on Thursday. I think Arkansas can get. I think Auburn can give Arkansas. Auburn beat Arkansas near the start of the league season. I think Missouri can give them a difficult game. South Carolina is going to be out, the odd man out on that trio. But you get a tougher game on Friday, and then you have to turn around and play Alabama and their pace, and you're running up and down the floor, and you only have seven players in your rotation. I think you made a good case right there. I'm with you that you would probably rather play Arkansas than Tennessee, because Tennessee will just muck it up and they'll foul over and over and over throughout the SEC tournament and make the officials kind of call it. And you know how officials do; they're not going to call every single foul. And Tennessee's physicality would probably really disrupt Alabama's offense. And so I think you make a good case right there. I think you obviously are wanting to avoid Florida. You're wanting to avoid Tennessee. I'm going to go with you right there. But you're also wanting to avoid, I think you're wanting to avoid Texas A&M. Sitting there on the 5 line, which is why I think you're right in really trying to keep these top 3 seeds, because I think Texas A&M is going to be a very, very annoying out, really in both tournaments, the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament, pressing you up and down the floor. I think that they can match Alabama's pace, and I think they defend fairly well as well. And I think Bucky will want another crack at Alabama if he can find it, if he can kind of orchestrate that opportunity. Those are probably the 3 teams that I would want to avoid the most: Florida, Tennessee, and Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's funny looking at the standings. Like, I didn't realize how we generated some real separation now, because you've got Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, the 3-way tie at 10-4. A&M is 1 game behind, technically 2 games behind Alabama, with the Tide having the head-to-head. And then you drop down to 8-6, and then we just have a hodgepodge of teams, all fighting for a top 8 spot, right? You have Texas, Mizzou, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, all 8-6, Georgia a game behind. That's your 6 through 10 right there, and none of them have any shot, barring a complete collapse, of catching Alabama, of catching the 3-way tie up there. So there's only one team that can take your spot from you, right? All you have to do is go 3-1, and you secure the top 4 spot. 3-1 will almost certainly secure you a top 3 spot, because then all you would need was all you need is an Arkansas loss, right? At 3-1, assuming the 1 loss is Tennessee.
There we go.
I think if you're a 3 seed playing 2-seeded Tennessee, it's not the end of the world. You're not unhappy with that draw.
So Alabama will be back in action on Wednesday against Mississippi State. You'll be able to see that right there on what channel? Oh, should be ESPN. Oh, we're on ESPNU this Wednesday. That's weird.
Trap game.
Well, could be. Ken Palm has Alabama winning very, very comfortable 94-78. We'll talk about that much more throughout the rest of the week. We'll hear from Nate Oates tomorrow, setting up maybe a last matchup against Josh Hubbard for Nate Oates, because he's probably going to end up going to the NBA draft after that. So we'll hear from Nate Oates tomorrow about Alabama and Mississippi State. And then, of course, we'll keep our eyes on Saturday. Huge matchup against the Tennessee Vols on Saturday. Theo, let's transition real quick to baseball because you were covering Alabama and Rhode Island. Alabama, 7-1 on the season. Really, I just want bullet points, a few takeaways from the baseball, but I really specifically want a report on Justin Osterhouse. First hit, smacking it over the wall, getting a big old home run for the Crimson Tide. What was your impression of how he battled through the weekend and really opening up his Alabama career with a home run?
Yeah, J.O.'s going to be fine, man. And this is one of the things that I struggle with, especially as a baseball reporter, right? You can't cover it like you cover the other sports. You can't.
Too many
swings. He goes his first 5 games of his Alabama career without a hit. And not only did he not have a hit, but he had some really bad strikeouts. Rob Vaughn talked about it after Friday, saying, he looked like he was swinging for the fences every at-bat. You're looking to have that really big first at-bat, send it over the wall, which, ironically, he broke the slump by actually succeeding at that, right? Taking the huge chop at a ball and, finally getting it to go over the fence. But the way he responded after getting that first hit, just completely different player, completely different approach in the plate. He was relaxed. He was calm. He drove in another run after that homer. I believe he walked in 1 run on Saturday to sac fly. He got on base again. You see how complete of a hitter he is, and you see just how well he attacks balls and his ability to lay off pitches. I feel like I'm watching a completely different baseball player since he got that one to go over the fence.
Okay, all it takes is one. Keep going.
All it takes is one. That's an exact quote from Rob Vaughn.
Okay.
You know, like he's going to be a big part of this baseball team, and he really is. He is the second fastest player on the base paths on this team.
Wow.
Like he is an athlete, man. He's going to be a very fun player this year. I guess other notes on the series. It was a great weekend for Alabama overall. John Lem, Australian, transferred from Southern Illinois, hits his first home run as well. Great to see him get one over the fence. Brennan Holt has become one of the guys to watch on this team. He's batting in the 9-hole, and I don't know how long he's going to stay there because he's batting, I believe, .325 right now for Alabama. He's hit a couple homers. He's been so consistent, and that's been so valuable with the top of the order coming around after him. And with LeBron being able to go up to bat, and there's Brennan Holt already on second base for me. So it's weird because we had Richie Bonamola Jr. start in the 9-hole and play his way up to cleanup by the end of the year. I don't know what's going to happen with Brennan Holt. You want a guy, first of all, he could just cool off naturally, but then you want a guy who can get on base batting ahead of LeBron. But you also need to move that guy up if he's batting so well. So it's hard to say on that front. LeBron, though, 5 homers. He hit 3 this series, 2 on Friday, 1 in the second game on Saturday, tying Rock Cieslawski, UCLA, for the lead in the nation. It's going to be such a fun season, man. It is going to be such a fun season. We'll see if he can hit a breaking ball. He batted .216 in SEC play last year, really, really slumping. But I think Justin LeBron is in it for the long haul this year. And I think we're going to see him go right down to the wire for these national awards.
Well, that's exciting. That'll be a lot of fun to watch Alabama's baseball season continue to unfold. We want to encourage you to follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez _, as he continues covering the Alabama baseball team. Only 8 games in. They'll be back in action on Tuesday when they're taking on the Southern Miss. And, go ahead, please.
Rob Vaughn does not do well at Pete Taylor Park. Southern Miss looks really, really good, too. They won a series against UCSB, one of the best mid-majors. And they just beat Oregon State in a game. Oregon State's one of Alabama's opponents this coming weekend in Frisco, Texas. So Alabama has 2 top 15 teams on the docket in the next week. You're playing Southern Miss on the road. You're playing Oregon State in Texas. You're also playing Houston and Iowa. Those 2 will be slightly easier. Houston's had some impressive results. So it's like, realistically, you probably go 2-2 over your next 4 games. And that's an okay 2-2. If you can go 3-1, then we're walking out thinking, man, this team is really, really good. It'll be a fun weekend for Alabama.
Huge weekend for the Crimson Tide, and you can follow it at Theo Fernandez _. Lastly, on the Diamond Sports World, before we flip to football real quick, is the softball team. The softball team went down to Tallahassee and took on Florida State, Elon, and Dartmouth. Smacked Elon in the first game. You had freshman pitcher Caitlin Palazzo end up with a perfect game in the first game against Elon. So really, really incredible game for her as Alabama won 7-0. They ended up beating both games against Florida State, so the ladies stayed undefeated. 11 different home runs. There have been 11 different Alabama players. 11 different Alabama players have hit home runs this season now through a couple of weekends. So a lot of power going through that lineup. And you see these freshman pitchers, Vic Moulton and Caitlin Palazzi, really, really stepping in to help out Jocelyn Brisky. I don't want to dive too much more into it. Let's reach out to Katie Wyndham this week and see what she made of the series against Florida State. You can read her takeaways on BamaCentral.com. We'll get kind of her expertise as the week goes on. But Theo, just real quick basics. It seems like a lot of pieces are in place for this Alabama softball team to be extremely competitive with the nation's best. One of 5 teams still undefeated in Division I.
Yeah, I watched that second game against FSU on Saturday, and Brisky pitched a complete game. She gave up 1 solo homer in the 7th, but Alabama was already up 5-0. You know, like it's just such a fun team because you have the bats finally. And there are going to be games where you don't score a ton of runs. Like, there are going to be games where those bats slump. But, oh, wait, we have elite pitching. And we have Jocelyn Brisky, who is such a big name and who is such a great pitcher. And, you know, she had a slow start to the season with injuries and with not playing a ton, but showed that she can go the distance, showed that she still has the elite stuff, completely shutting down a top 10 team. And then Vic Moten is just a revelation, man. Vic Moten, as a freshman doing all this stuff, is just unreal. Alabama can hang with anyone in the country this year. They should be, I believe they will be in the top 5 of the polls this week. You just went to Tallahassee and dog walked FSU. Incredible showing. This team is legit.
So we go. Alabama softball getting their season started in a big way. 3 weekends in a row, and now finally taking down a really premier program, Florida State, twice this past weekend. Theo, let's wrap this up with a little football conversation, talking about the combine and talking about an announcement that Alabama football just made this Monday.
Yeah, I just saw this.
Yeah, before we do that, though, we'll tell you about Purple Turtle Roofing. We're not just another contractor. We're your neighbor and your advocate when it comes to protecting your home or business. With years of hands-on experience, top-tier certification, and a commitment to excellence, we've built a reputation as Alabama's go-to roofing solution. We specialize in residential roofing, commercial roofing, emergency storm repairs, full-on roof replacement, insurance claim support, and more. Check them out online today at roofturtle.com. You can see all their products and services right there on roofturtle.com. If you want to call, you can call at 877-787-6635. Set up a free roof inspection today from Purple Turtle Roofing. They'll come out, check out your roof, look at your shingle roof, look at your metal roof, look at really anything you've got going on, look at your chimney. Make sure that you have the peace of mind that you deserve in your home ahead of the spring storm season. We really appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program and encourage you to use them. Check them out online at roofturtle.com. All right, Theo, let's start real quick with the news. Alabama football this morning announcing that they are opening the 2028 season. So 26, 27, 3 seasons from now. Alabama, their home opener is set. They're welcoming in the mighty football power of the Georgia State Panthers. Theo, this is I don't much care that you're playing Georgia State. If you've listened to the program any length of time, you know that I really do not like bye games at all. Obviously, they are a necessary evil with the 9-game SEC season schedule on the horizon, and I love that, actually. I'm hopeful that you don't see a lot of these high-profile home-and-home matchups canceled. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that Ohio State matchup a couple of weeks ago. The folks from On3 really tried to drive that talking point home about Alabama and Ohio State and what's good for college football and what's bad for college football and having it canceled. But just real quick, do you have any emotion or reaction at all? Because I don't care one bit about opening the season with Georgia State in 2028. Obviously, we are writing it right now for BamaCentral.com, but it'll probably be a 5-6 p.m. game right there in Bryant-Denny Stadium. They'll announce that in the future, but you're welcoming in the Panthers in a couple of seasons.
Yeah, Joe, you already have 3 non-conference games scheduled. So you have UT Martin, who you play September 16th. You have games against Ohio State and Oklahoma State already.
Oh, so no, you're right.
One of those 2 series just got canceled.
Wow.
One of those two is gone. I would like that. I mean, I'd say this is pretty big.
That's a great point, Theo. Well done. And you're exactly right. Just using this as a looking that season in 2028 starts the Oklahoma State series at Oklahoma State in 28, Oklahoma State in Tuscaloosa in 2029. Do we think it's the Oklahoma State series, or am I just picking that because 2028 is also the second game of the Ohio State series?
Well, yeah. So I would think because you already obviously you have your Florida State game 2026. 2027 you canceled West Virginia because you were supposed to play West Virginia 26, 27.
Right.
Ohio State is the only power conference matchup on the completed 2027 schedule, right?
Correct.
2028, you finish the series against Ohio State, and then it would make sense to cancel the Oklahoma State series, right? Because then you cancel the Oklahoma State series, and then you already have a series against Notre Dame that starts in 2029 when game 2 of the Oklahoma State series would be. So that way you're keeping your marquee series.
I guess if I have to pick, I'd rather have the Ohio State series over the Oklahoma State series. Go to the Horseshoe and see Columbus, Ohio. Obviously, Boone Pickens Stadium is really has a great reputation as well, and so that would be fun to see. But if you're making me choose which OSU program to play, I'm choosing to play the Ohio State Buckeyes because I think that will be a much more fun matchup for college football, much more fun matchup for myself. I know it'd be very anxiety inducing for both fan bases, Alabama and Ohio State's fan base. But if I'm choosing just for the sake of college football and fun and entertainment, I really want to see Alabama, Oklahoma State. And if this is a move to preserve that and sacrifice the Oklahoma State series, all right, Greg Byrne, I support that.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense as far as I don't think you're going to Stillwater anymore, but you're keeping the home and home with Ohio State. Let me say,
now,
I am still very bummed that I don't get to go to Morgantown this year. Like that, it still doesn't sit right with me. But if you're preserving one a year,
retiring
a 9-game schedule, it makes sense to have one non-con a year. And I'd rather be Ohio State and Notre Dame, than Oklahoma State.
Blame Nick Saban for retiring while we're not going to West Virginia. If he were still the coach, Alabama would be going to West Virginia. Some other series might have been canceled, yes. But I think they still would have made that trip. I really have mixed feelings about future schedules. Obviously, I know that the whole deal is to try to set up for the playoffs and to try to get to the playoffs. But I want to see these marquee non-conference games continue to happen in college football. I would like for the committee to, and I think they did. I mean, Alabama, I think they did. They didn't punish Alabama for losing to Florida State. And people can talk about Texas, Ohio State this year. Well, Texas, you lost to Florida later on down the year, later in the season. And so I think that loss hurt Texas a lot more than their loss to Ohio State. I'm hopeful that the committee continues to, or not continues, but really leans into rewarding teams that schedule hard instead of that 13-0 or that 12-0 model. Hey, you played 2 or 3 or 4 little sisters of the poor and you got in. I mean, I know Indiana, their non-conference schedule has been booty cheeks for the last couple of seasons and will continue to be not good over the next couple of seasons. And so that's kind of the model that people are maybe adopting since it worked for Indiana. But for the health of the game and the good of college football, I really would like to see the committee reward these teams that challenge themselves, even if it results in an early season loss.
Yeah, I completely agree with all that.
All right, Theo, last thing for us is the Combine. I know you and Henry talked about it last week, but on the Friday show, so make sure you guys go out and look at it on the Friday show. You can see it on all the podcast platforms and right there on the Bama Central YouTube channel. A good conversation between Theo and Henry Scalar about the Combine. But just this morning, More details on Ty Simpson. Because as NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reports that Ty Simpson was dealing with a severe case of gastricitis. Now we knew that already. It was already reported that he had gastricitis at the end of the year. But Pelissero adds a new detail saying he weighed around 190 pounds by the Rose Bowl, but is now back up to about 215 ahead of the NFL Combine this week. How do you will Ty Simpson perform as probably the best quarterback in the Combine this weekend? Will he throw this week? And really, just your thoughts on laying it all out there. 190-pound Ty Simpson. No wonder you got your ribs cracked, my guy, in the Rose Bowl. But just laying it all out there. He said on different podcasts, eating chicken noodle soup for the last couple of weeks of the season because he couldn't keep anything else down. 190-pound quarterback. How will now 215-pound Ty Simpson do in the Combine?
Yeah, come on, man. Like, we always hear some kind of reaction to a QB's measurements, whether it's Joe Burrow's hands or whether it's, oh man, look at this guy's height or weight. Like, can we just learn to not react to it? Can we just learn to, sit and watch what these guys actually do in the Combine? I'm past the point of reacting to QB measurements just because I've seen people get burned on it for years.
Theo, what's your hand size?
Who's got the bigger hand? Well, I mean, you're closer to the camera, so it's like we should do an official Bama Central Combine.
There you go. Height, weight. My weight is unknown.
You're on the 40?
Yeah. My 40. My 40 is probably today at. I want to be realistic. My 40 today is probably 6'1", 5'8", 5'9", 6'1", right in that range. In high school, I did break 5 seconds pretty consistently, but I was definitely no 4'6" guy, 4'7" guy. It was 4'9", It was 4'9", 491 in that range. But we are well past high school. So if you're asking me today, yeah, I'm gonna say my ambitious take is 5'7" in the 40. Theo, what would you clock yourself at?
I don't even want to try it. I will be.
I mean, I'll hurt myself. That's for the problem, right?
Yeah, like I can't give out too much information that affects my stock either way. You guys got to watch the performance in person.
Sure. Well, Theo, it does have me on height, and maybe on weight, and definitely on muscle, but my weight is not a flattering weight. Yeah, I think that if you were drafting, go ahead and draft Theo ahead of myself, based on Combine results, and we'll see how it happens this way. The Underwear Olympics kicks off today, so we'll see if Ty Simpson impresses in his way into the first round. A lot of people are enjoying mocking Ty Simpson to the Pittsburgh Steelers in that late teens range. I think it might be at 21 even. So we'll see how it plays out. Which Alabama player is this week's Combine the most important for? Is it Ty Simpson?
I believe it's Deontay Lawson. I think as far as a guy who – PFF mocked him round 3 to your Chicago Bears, Joe.
Lawson?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think when you look at him, right, he's a guy who, in theory, should go out and nail the interview portion, right? And, should get teams to fall in love with him. And then me and Henry were talking about this when we broke down the Combine on Friday. Like, you forget how talented he is, right? You forget, this guy was a high five-star and was a really, really talented player at a time for Alabama. And we think of him as kind of like this veteran, this leader guy. No, he's a very talented football player. He's a guy who you speak to the teams, right? And you nail your intellect stuff and you have good showings with the measurables. You could end up being a day 2 pick. On the flip side, you don't pass the medical report. You have underwhelming numbers and, you're going at the tail end of day 4. Like, there is a lot on the line with the pendulum. It could swing either way for Deontay Lawson.
I think that's a good pick, honestly. I think, especially with the medical issue, because they're going to really test that knee. And I think I've said this a couple times on the show. The back half of the season, Deontay Lawson looked maybe as good as he ever has. The first half of the season, maybe sometimes it was, oh, is that knee still bothering you? So getting his knee checked out and testing well, because I think on the whiteboard and as far as in interviews, Deontay is going to crush that.
Yes.
Deontay is one of the more well-spoken people that I've ever talked to in the Alabama football sphere. And his media answers this season were incredible, or light years beyond what they were last year. Like, he was much more comfortable in an interview setting this year, and I think he understood the defense very, very well. So on the whiteboard and in the interviews, I think he will get really, really high marks from all the teams. It'll be interesting, and I think very important to see how he tests in the medical with the knee, and then also how he tests with the athleticism and with all the drills that he will go through this week. So Theo, that's really all I got today. If you got anything else for the people before we get out of here?
No, that's about all I've got.
All right. But make sure you follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez _, especially as he's covering the rest of baseball season. Alabama, Southern Miss on Tuesday. You're not going down to Hattiesburg, are you? That'd be wild.
Nah, I wish we couldn't do that.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's going to be a long week for you anyway, so enjoy that game from the comfort of your living room as you write and as you tweet and as you cover Alabama baseball on Tuesday against Southern Miss. We'll get out of here for the day. We'll have Nate Oates' press conference tomorrow to talk about the Mississippi State game on Wednesday. So a lot of action coming your way on the Bama Central YouTube channel. Thanks to Theo for holding down the fort on Thursday and Friday. Thank you to Hunter DeCyber and to Henry Scalar for jumping in and helping him and thus helping me as well. We appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program, and State Farm, Derek Daniel State Farm Insurance as well for sponsoring the show. We'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.